Welcome to One Insight. My name is Litvin. I grew up in London and I now live in LA. And this is a podcast for extraordinary top performers. You see, I've coached some of the most successful and talented people on the planet. I see what most people cannot see, and I dare to say what most people wouldn't dare to say. And what I know about success is that on the other side of it, it can actually be lonely. You can feel like more of an imposter the more successful you become. And when you're the most interesting person in the room, you're actually in the wrong room. I coach around insight. Life looks one way, something happens, the world looks different, and your entire world changes. It can happen in an instant. And this podcast is called One Insight because a single insight can change everything. This was a fascinating conversation for me. Dr. Erin Baker is a former director of user experience at Yammer that became part of Microsoft. She's a former UX research manager at Facebook. She's got a PhD in social and personality psychology. This is what we call a high performer. And she's transitioned into coaching. And she comes in with this distinction around patience versus hustle. Should I practice slowing down or should I be working really, really hard to speed up? And I work with her around that distinction. And then I can tell there's something more. So before I take her off the hot seat, I ask her what would really make this an extraordinary conversation. And we dive even deeper to what her big dreams might be. And then I mess with her thinking around big dreams. Enjoy. Hi, Erin.
Hi.
So 2 seconds ago, you said the thought in my head was, what do I want Rich to coach me on? Let me ask you that question right now. What can I coach you on?
So I think what's coming to mind, I'm trying to figure out what's really present with me today. And what's coming up for me is I've launched my new business. I've left the corporate world about 4 months ago. And I love this quote that you quote a lot, Marshall Goldsmith, of what got you there won't get you to where you're going next. Hold on, that was my beep. My fault. Let me turn it off.
Yeah, what got you here won't get you there.
Yes, what got you here, it won't get you there. And so I'm having this sort of moment of, I don't really know what the balance is between being patient and letting things unfold as I build my business and what is not hustling enough. So when I was back in my corporate career, there were benchmarks, right? You have a level that you're at. You're, an individual contributor or you're a manager, and here's kind of what it means to be in your role, and this is how you progress to the next level. And when you become an entrepreneur, it's a completely different ballgame.
Yeah.
And so I think that's where my mind is right now, is sort of striking that right balance, and especially because part of the reason I'm in the entrepreneurial world is to have balance and flexibility and fun.
Yeah, isn't it interesting though? We go into the entrepreneurial world so often out of the corporate world for balance, fun, and often also to get away from some of the most demanding bosses we've ever worked for. To discover there is no boss more demanding than the one who sits in our seat. No boss, officially at least, asks us to get up at 3 a.m. and check email to see if business is coming in, but we feel called to do that, right? And so often that world that we leave, there are times where we look back and thinking, oh my God, there's pieces of that I missed. Not everything, but pieces I miss. It can be intense to be an entrepreneur, right?
Sure, absolutely. And when you're a high achiever and you have high ambitions, it's easy to get sucked into the vortex.
Yeah. So here's something I know. As humans, we tend to underestimate dramatically what we'll achieve in 10 years and overestimate what we'll achieve in 1 year. And that gives context to my answer to your question. I wrote down the distinction, patience versus hustle.
Mm-hmm.
I teach and coach around distinctions. I look for the distinctions my clients have in their world, but I'm also very comfortable with paradox. And there's a paradox that there are times in your entrepreneurial life where patience is going to be called for and much more important than hustle. You hear me say a lot, slow down to speed up. And there are other times when hustle's okay. I mean, I don't come from the Gary Vaynerchuk school of hustle, hustle, hustle all the time. That I think is exhausting and overwhelming, and that's his shtick. It's not my way of doing things. But I'm not afraid to work hard, and I'm not afraid to hustle when needed. I don't think there's a simple answer to that question. Is it one or the other? I think, just like you said at the beginning, like you got present, I felt it. What's the question I really need to ask in this moment rather than the one I prepared? And I think patience versus hustle is a moment-by-moment decision.
Mm. Yeah. And I think what's coming up for me right now is that I haven't built that intuition yet of when to be patient and when to hustle.
Mm. So that's a great insight. Like, how do I build that as a skill? Because it is a skill and it can be learned. And some of that also is around making sure you have the right people around you to support you with that. You had that in the previous world you were in, because there were benchmarks, there were managers, there were reporting dates, there were deadlines. And when it's just me on my own in my office, well, how do I make sure that I'm doing what needs to be done? Or even doing what I want to do, because I can find easily ways to excuse myself from doing it. I'm afraid of doing something. And so do you have a community, an individual support network?
I do. So I am apprenticing with Coach Christina Berkeley, and I have a community through another tribe that I reach out to. Okay. That tribe is not necessarily from my same background, so they may not have the same level of understanding of the hustle I have come from. I think that's also a piece for me, is developing an intuition. So when I used to work at Facebook, and then I was at Microsoft for a year, and both of those companies are kind of at warp speed. And so I've lost touch with my own internal compass of what's reasonable. And I've also moved back to the Midwest from the Bay Area, which was also a very chaotic, high energy place. And so what's happening right now is I don't have a calibration, and I don't have a community other than my coach to really understand what is hustle and what isn't.
That's great. This is you've nailed it, a calibration issue.
Yes, totally.
And so I'd say for a while, I would keep a journal.
Okay.
And I think it's a journal where you're actually making a notation of a number of things. So maybe if there was a scale from patience to hustle, from 0 to 5 or something like that, like, where do I feel today? I'd map against it your happiness. Maybe a smiley face, a sad face, or a face with a straight line in the middle, just a little bit simple, something simple so you can watch what happens. Oh, I noticed that the more down I feel, the more in hustle mode I am. Or is it the other way around? The more I'm in hustle mode, the more sad I feel, but there's a connection there that's worth noticing, or whatever else you might see. Look, you're going to look for patterns.
I like data. That appeals to me a lot.
Of course, it's your background, right? From Facebook. Yes. So yeah, I would look at what's the data I want to collect. Patience to hustle scale, the emotional, sadness to happiness scale. I would have something like, in my words, I'd call it the Whitespace scale. So space is where miracles occur. My job is to create as much space as I can for myself and for my clients, because that's when extraordinary things happen. So the opposite of white spaces in my calendar is jam-packed.
Sure.
Could you have a scale like that you're looking at on, and some of these are daily, some of them are weekly, right? There's no point measuring your body fat on a daily basis. That doesn't make sense. But tracking your body fat is useful if you're working out and want to have one measure of progress. So I think this would be really interesting and fun and valuable for you to pick a number of items for this scale that you can track.
Yeah. The white space one is one, it's a really interesting piece for me, because it's something I crave, is that time to be creative and be thinking. And there's a piece of me that struggles internally with you should be doing something, which it is something I'm doing. But I haven't recalibrated my mentality from that world where I was literally, as in my last year as a manager, in meetings all day, every day. There was no white space.
Yep.
I was miserable. And so there's sort of that shifting of the mindset of this is a good thing. Remember, you didn't have that.
Yeah.
And enjoying that things are not so overwhelming right now that I have to say no to time for that.
This is good.
Yeah.
I feel that shift in you, that realization, because you've got to look back to that world. I spent some time on your website before this conversation, and I read the words that your wife said to you. I think you need to leave Facebook. It's killing you.
Yes. It was. And I had no idea.
Yeah.
And I think that piece is a fear I have as I go on this entrepreneurship journey, is that I will get lost in my vortex of just when I get really excited about things, I go. And so I think part of the fear of patience versus hustle is that I don't want to get back to that space again, where I'm burnt out, where my wife is telling me that I have dark circles under my eyes, and that, that my whole identity is wrapped. My whole identity was, I am a Facebook research manager, and I don't want that for my business, because my business is me. You are your business as a coach, but I also, there's so much more to me.
So I'm gonna riff off what I know is the thing that you love, this use of data. You need somehow, I don't know why this flashed into my mind, in Star Trek, the panels, everyone's looking at the spaceship, someone's tracking every little part of the spaceship. Someone has a panel that's tracking warning signs.
Yes.
Engine temperature. I haven't driven a spaceship, so I was thinking of how much gas is in the whatever fuel, right?
Right.
But you need someone. You need a dashboard, and you need a system with early warning signs with a check engine light. So we need to work out, what is that? Okay, so dark circles under my eyes is a great one, and it's your wife who's checking that one. What other ones can you have? Some that you're checking, some that your partner's checking, some that your coach is checking, some that your family or community are checking. So you've given these early warning signs out there to others more than just you. It's hard to catch it, because the problem is you can plan it all now, but your energy's up here. As your energy declines, your vision fades, you're unable to see things around you, so you're going to miss those signs that you need to be paying attention to. So outsource them.
Yeah.
Make a list of the early warning signs, or ask the people who love you and know you the best. What do you think? Remember, look back at those 5 years ago. What were the early warning signs that you saw that I couldn't even see? Because they saw them, I promise you.
You did. And it's funny, I did have, about the last 4 months I was at Facebook, I had a daily tracking system of my own that was around, when I hit this threshold, I have to leave. But it was very clear that my own tracking system was failing me, because everybody else was seeing things. And I'm like, but my data shows everything's fine.
Yeah. Not only that, I think the criteria, when it hits here, I have to leave. It's like, in the car, that level on the gas, when the light comes on, like you're almost out of gas.
Yeah.
Now, they deliberately set that a lot higher, because they know that most people, once the light comes on, going to let it go and go and go. So for most people, it won't actually run out. You set the bar too low. So you've got to set it a lot higher, because the challenge of being a one-person business is that you are the most important person in your business. And as much as you love your clients and eventually your team, you are more important than them.
Yes.
Because without you, nothing happens. So it's really important you put recreation on your calendar. Recreation.
Yes.
It's time for you to nurture yourself so you can get back into doing what you love and serving others. And I'm sure this is your gift, because it is for me. I'm really good at helping others take time for themselves. but I have to know that if I don't, I can do that even less.
Yes. Yes. And I think that something that was coming up for me is, especially some recreation that's social, is also a really great time to meet interesting people and find potential clients. And I had this sort of heart palpitation around, I don't want my fun time to now become, oh, but I have to think about, am I meeting interesting people from my business, you know? So if I can create some space where, you know what, this particular place, this particular thing I'm doing, doesn't matter how interesting these people are, I'm not there to make a client.
Yeah.
I'm there to go play Frisbee or do whatever.
And you'll be surprised how much more likely it is that those people will show up because you're not looking for them.
Right.
So we're here, right? The insights you needed are there. You got them in the first few minutes of this conversation.
Mm-hmm.
So because my sense of you is that, I mean, you're sharp, you're fast, you get things quick. We could be complete and say we're done, and this distinction would really serve you for the rest of your life. You create an incredible business from this place, this distinction, these tools we've got. But there's something more. What is it? How can I serve you in a way that's absolutely extraordinary, Erin?
I think your superpower of dreaming big, because I think one thing that I know a lot about myself and my skills and what I love to do. I generally have a sense of my zone of genius. I still feel like I don't, when you said earlier, this idea that we underestimate what we can do in 10 years and overestimate what we can do in one, what's happening in 3 years question always stumps me.
Yeah.
And I could use some help, crafting what does that vision look like? And some of the questions I ask myself that I would ask my clients haven't quite nailed it for me in my own coaching. So someone coming at me from a different angle would be really helpful.
Here's what I get about you. I'm reminded when I first started coaching almost 15 years ago and all my money fears came up. Because I used to work in organizations where I got a paycheck at the end of every month, not even a paycheck, just wired into my bank account. Mm-hmm. And I was a hard worker, but it didn't matter. The people in my organization who didn't work hard, they got paid the same as I did. So suddenly it was just me worrying about all the money. And the coach who was working with me at the time said, you know what I get about you, Rich? What I get about you is even if all the money ran out and you literally became homeless and had to go and live in a hostel, I give you about 2 weeks before you'd be running the hostel.
That's about right.
So I laughed. It's like, oh my God, yeah, he's nailed me. I could see the signs I put up on the wall with the rotas of who'd be doing what. It's just like, this is just who I am. And I see your smile when I say that. What lands for you when I share that story?
No matter what I do in life, I find myself doing it well and doing more than I ever thought I could. Yeah. It's definitely a mindset that I've noticed about myself, and I constantly check it, is this idea that because I'm in uncertain territory doesn't mean I'm not going to actually go do some really killer things. I just don't like that I don't have the certainty right now. But so that what's resonating for me is that like great things are going to happen, and it's okay that I don't have a concrete picture of what that vision looks like. I think for me, longer term, I want to be pushed to continually push my boundaries because I've been so good at everything I've ever done. I'd like to get to a place where, like you talk about impossible goals, where I'm really doing something that does feel impossible. Mm-hmm. Right now, I'm afraid, but it doesn't feel impossible. And that fear is what keeps me going.
Yeah, my sense is that now's not the right time for me to draw out from you an impossible goal.
Right. That makes sense.
Your challenge right now is to practice living in uncertainty. There'll come a moment when either you'll go, oh my God, Rich, I think it's this. Can I talk? Or oh shit, Rich, this really scares me. Can we talk? But something extraordinary is on the way. Your job right now is to sit and live in uncertainty and see what, because that's not been something you've felt for a long time, I don't think. And it's a muscle to build. It will really serve you into the future, your ability to stay in discomfort.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have not been in this level of uncertainty in a very long time. And I used to be one of those people, not so much anymore, but I used to have a plan. And I'm not feeling like I need a plan right now. It's hard for me to be just in the moment to moment, letting things unfold.
And I have to model this right now because it's really cool, especially this is an episode for a podcast rather than a private coaching session, where I get this big boom moment of insight and someone says, wow, or everyone can see this thing is going to change. So am I able to be in the tension of, well, there's no special denouement, there's no special moment of insight other than, okay, it's time to stay in the discomfort. And I'm okay with that because I've practiced that. And I say to my clients, I'm not attached to you achieving what you want in the time frame you've got. I know what you want to create is on its way. I have no doubt about that. But when it happens, or how it happens, or what it looks like, or whether it's even different from the way you thought it would be, I'm okay with that too. And so this is one of those what I call hot seat moments, where I take you off the hot seat and I let you simmer. Let you simmer in the not knowing, because it will really serve you to be in this place.
Yes, it's very, I sense the discomfort. And I'm feeling right now very lucky that I don't have any rush. I've got plenty of time. If I had needed money, I wouldn't have left my job. So this is a good reminder to me of part of my intention was to spend some time simmering. And so I think there's just a little high achiever in me that's like, okay, you simmered long enough.
Yep.
And maybe that means I haven't simmered long enough.
Make that your practice. Make that your practice. And the invitation from me is, when you know, let's speak again. Okay. When there's something that scares you, then it's time for you and me to talk.
Okay.
Now, I say that quite deliberately because you've always had success at whatever you put your mind to. And so what I put to you next is the thing that you know, like, oh, I could make this one be successful. That's not the one. It's the one where you have doubt. It's the one where you have imposter syndrome. It's the one where you think, who me? How could I possibly do this? Mm-hmm. That's the one where I'll sit down and I'll talk to you and I'll help you dream big.
And that's, yeah. There's a sense that that's coming. I don't know what that is, but I very confidently feel there's something extraordinary on my horizon. I've just not been patient to get there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brings us right back to where we started. Patience versus hustle. In
yes.
this place, in this moment, there's a place for slowing down to speed up.
Yes. And for me, I'm an extreme action taker. And so I think it's about knowing when the action will help bring some things and let them unfold, and when inaction will bring things and let things unfold.
For you, towards the side of inaction for now.
Okay.
Sit with the discomfort, because it's not your default place. You know how to be in massive action, and when it's needed, that will kick in an instant.
Okay.
Build your muscle on the other side of the spectrum, because then you'll have range, and the wider your range, the more your power. You're already an incredibly powerful person, Erin. Your power will build when you lean into the side where you don't have much range right now.
That makes sense. And I think there's a lot I can just sense as I get uncomfortable. There will be a lot that comes up around limiting beliefs and there's a story in my head of if I don't have it figured out now, I never will. And I know that story is not serving me. So that it'll be good for me to see how those stories come up as I sit in the discomfort.
Well, go back to where we began with this dashboard for you, where you're tracking things, as well as quantitative data, track some qualitative data. So today, this is my level of happiness from a scale of 1 to 5, or the smiley face scale. This was the number of actions I took, whatever it is you're tracking, and underneath and some qualitative data on that page. These were the thoughts in my head. These were the emotions I was feeling. These were the sensations in my body. 2 or 3 lines, that's it. Track some quantitative and qualitative data. You're the data person.
Yes.
You'll watch for the patterns.
Yeah. That sounds like a lot of fun.
Erin, thanks for playing.
Thank you.
For most of human history, it wasn't called coaching. It was called leadership. And it's what I love to do. To coach people, to lead people, and to mess with people's thinking. If you'd like more of this, or if you'd like to learn more about our community of extraordinary top performers, go to richlitvin.com/oneinsight.